So this is 07:30 Hrs GMT edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast only on the internet, not on terrestrial, not on satellite, not on cable platforms. And this is the first time that we are broadcasting since 21st of May 2023. So we didn't broadcast anything on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, or the 25th of May 2023. Now, this is the edition that we shall be, of course, using mainly to accommodate brief aspects of the essay-length investigation commentary that we want to include and put on the record as world-exclusive analysis and content that we broadcast and publish, including the latest corruption by the plainly dishonest Rishi Sunak. It should not be available to anyone who is the incumbent at number 10 Downing Street to decide whether Suella, Crueller Fernandes committed any wrongs or did any series of wrongs. Should be up to the independent platform to decide, to adjudicate on that. The fact that Rishi Sunak has gone back on his bogus commitment that he delivered or staged at number 10 in front of the door of number 10 Downing Street upon, quote, assuming, quote, the spot as the, quote, prime minister at the expense of the United Kingdom shows that he's as dishonest as the previous ones, especially the dishonesty displayed in each case by the sleazeball Dave Cameron, and of course the most notorious one, Boris Johnson. Theresa May was not exposed so much as a dishonest one, but as a racist one, because it was her, just around 20 years ago, when she was launching herself as a then potential leader of the Conservatives. And she said that the perception prevalent in the United Kingdom among the public, the British public so-called, about the Conservative Party was that it was the nasty party. Now, as revelations confirm, now the revelations do not include everything that she did while she was in post, either as the Home Secretary, the Minister for the Interior, as it is known internationally. But in the United Kingdom, it is called the Home Secretary. And as the sleazeball, shameless Alan Johnson glorified the elevated status, one of the highest officers of the state. Fuck Alan Johnson, you fucking mental slave shitbag. No office of the United Kingdom state is high. Every single office is low. And the level is, of course, in the person occupying the post at the time. So when Theresa May occupied, she was the longest in post, or she has been so far anyway, since the racist Gordon Brown got himself ousted by the cabal consisting of Nick Sick Clegg and Dave Sleazeball Cameron in 2010. So when she said that the Conservatives or the Tory party was known as the nasty party, Theresa May clearly underestimated the power of the truth to prevail eventually, despite the fact that machinations indulged in and conspired and plotted by the likes of her suggest to them that they will get away with lying and the two-faced, three-faced performance. In her case, of course, Theresa May's hostile environment, direction aimed at people who Suella, Crueller is persecuting now, the migrants. This disclosure came about while Theresa May would have expected to get away with this while she was in some kind of post. And this disclosure came when she was in the post as the Prime Minister at number 10 Downing Street. And it was brought about by a combination of conservative, right-wing, racist elements operating in a bizarre kind of collection. The wife of Joe Johnson, also known as the Guardian journalist, Amelia Gentleman. I mean, look at that name, Gentleman. Was given a particular credit for an alleged investigation into the treatment of the people collectively known as the Windrush arrivals. And as it was the Guardian and Joe Johnson's wife Amelia Gentleman, they couldn't question the acceptable whiteness of the sources of the criticism. Notice what I'm saying, acceptable whiteness. So when she became associated with the updater direction for creating hostile environment, Theresa May became exposed as a liar, a racist, imperialist criminal who had the audacity to underestimate the testimony of the people suffering from and suffering the effects of the hostile environment, whether they were collectively, directly identifiable as the Windrush generation or people like them. So, what Theresa May did do in her hostile environment direction has not ended, despite the fact that The Guardian and Amelia Gentleman and assorted others racist subsidiary self seekers claim temporary credit for disclosure journalism. It hasn't changed, it hasn't gone away. In fact, as the ugly behavior of Priti Patel, while she was incumbent in the post that Theresa May had occupied, showed, the Home Office, the Department of the Interior, contrary to the mental slave Alan Johnson, not only is not morally anywhere near any height, but it was nearer the depth of darkness, discrimination, disparity, denial, and depravity. Something must be there, and it must go back to the early 20th century when Winston S. Churchill was the Home Secretary. In that capacity, Winston S. Churchill visited Tower Hamlets. It wasn't Tower Hamlets, it was Stepney Borough. And it was the seize of a small property near on the commercial road. So Churchill was Home Secretary some 30 years before this happened, when he created the genocide of the 1943 Bengal famine, as it is called, by diverting the equivalent of billions of pounds worth of materials, resources, foodstuff from being accessed by the people of Bengal. That includes both today's Bangladesh and today's Indian province of West Bengal. So 1943 and the genocide of the Bengalis mainly, because the overwhelming majority of the people who were affected by Churchill genocide were in Bengal for logistical reasons, various issues, etc. So, what we are looking at is that people who have occupied the post of Home Secretary, now going through 2 centuries, let's say, in the context of our current analysis, have behaved, despite the fact that they have belonged to different political levels and colors and so called parties. But they have behaved in the crucial issues, policy issues that have affected the rights of the people who are most open to abuse by the Home Office. That suggests the existence of some kind of force in what is called the Home Office, or the resurgence from time to time by that force in the behavior, operations, policies of the Home Office by what can only be called satanic force, as is warned about in the Surah Al Isra. Satan challenged God and said that he would have followers. And the UK Home Office, regardless of who the Home Secretary of the day or night may be, has persistently produced the darkest of policies, the most hateful of narratives and incitements. And you cannot say the permanent secretary, the home secretary, or anybody else as a minister devise these evil plots. What is happening with Rishi Sunak surrendering, sucking up to Crueller, Suella, Fernandes, is that he is actually worshipping Satan and the satanic forces at work in the Home Office. And when Priti the Ugly Patel was doing her version of what Fernandes is doing, she must have been kind of behaving like a zombie, as a puppet in the hands of the Satan. The nearest comparison internationally would be any racist, fascist dictator anywhere in Western Europe or in North America, who appears to be in continuous possession of hateful narratives, excuses, pretexts, always blaming, always accusing the most vulnerable of causing the majority of society's problems, which have nothing to do with the vulnerables. In fact, that ever can be to do with the victims of the corruption and the criminality being responsible for making themselves victims. It would be a logical impossibility, physical impossibility, ethical impossibility, moral impossibility. So, for example, today's newspaper in London has got on the front page a picture of the criminal Boris Johnson wearing a cowboy hat. And what it says is that Johnson has, in the given period that it is the newspaper is surveying, let's say. Let's check what it is actually temporarily, that is to say, in terms of time, the period. Now it says on page 11, it says the details are there on page 11, and it's under politics on page 1. 4.2 million pounds banked, that is, Johnson has banked 4.2 million pounds, and we shall find out what time they're referring to. But 187 votes skipped in House of Commons. Now, I don't know whether the camera will have this. This is the front page of this. Is the camera, how is it going to? That's the one. So, if you go to page 11, see what the details are saying. It says, Viva Las Vegas for Johnson as he rakes in cash on the United States speaking tour. Now, the phrase rakes in is the illicit, greedy, immoral pocketing of lots of money. That they are saying now. To what extent are they going to demand accountability for him? The picture of the criminal, Johnson, is captioned in the following words. Boris Johnson obliges a selfie hunter in Austin, Texas on Tuesday after meeting the governor, Greg Abbott. Now, what the fuck was he doing in Texas? And the shitbag has no shame? Former PM has missed crucial Commons votes. The piece is byline to Richard Vaughan. And it says about Texas, Austin in Texas, in the USA, it says, it's a city that Boris Johnson was arguably born for. This week, the former Prime Minister, why do they keep calling him former Prime Minister? He's more factually appropriately describable as the crook, congenital liar, depraved parasite, and an opportunistic careerist, politics abusing prostitute. This week, the former Prime Minister continued his hugely lucrative worldwide public speaking tour in Las Vegas, where he was sharing a bill with the likes of Mark Wahlberg, Hillary Clinton, and the Black Eyed Peas. No doubt Mr. Johnson enjoyed his star status in America's Sin City and is expected to have raked in pop star levels of pay for his speech to the Scale Global Summit. Back at home, the legacy of his spell in number 10 continues to spark bitter divisions within the Conservative Party following his referral to the police for another alleged lockdown violation. But Mr. Johnson's international engagements continued uninterrupted, and so on. So they give an idea of the money that he is pocketing. Each of the events pay him a six-figure sum, with the highest single known amount for a speaking event, the 277,723 pound 89 pence from the New York based banking firm Centerview Partners. Travel and accommodation was also provided. After he was forced out of office in September, Mr. Johnson quickly signed up with the Harry Walker Agency, the Manhattan based Public Speakers Bureau, which also hosts the likes of Bill and Hillary Clinton, Hollywood actors Bob Lowe. Now read that again. Hollywood actors Rob Lowe and Ryan Reynolds, and sports stars such as Serena Williams. There is a good reason for his demanding schedule. As Prime Minister, he complained about his finances, insisting he could not continue to fund his lifestyle on his ministerial salary of 164,080 pounds a year. It was the lack of cash that led to him seeking to arrange an 800,000 pound loan guaranteed by his distant cousin Sean Blythe by Richard Sharp, the former BBC chairman, whose own reputation was torched as a result. But the telephone number sums money his earning has allowed the Johnson family to buy a 9-bedroom grade 2 listed country manor house in the Cotswolds for a reported 3.8 million pounds. The additional space will no doubt be required as the Johnsons announced that they are expecting their third child and Mr. Johnson's eighth. His expanding brood includes the love child he fathered after an affair with Helen McIntyre. The daughter, Stephanie, is of school age. Despite his upturn in fortunes, the Johnsons continue to be supported by their benefactors, JCB Tycoon Ford and Lady Bamford, who have allowed the family to use two of their properties since leaving Downing Street. As of this May, this is the May 2023, during which we are talking, Mr. Johnson's register of interest still lists the use of the Bamford's £20 million London townhouse, spitting distance from Harrods in Knightsbridge, which is listed as being valued at £10,000 a month. They also enjoy the use of Lady Bamford's Cotswolds cottage, complete with moat and tennis court, which is valued at £3,500 a month. The ex Prime Minister is due to learn the findings of a Privileges Committee inquiry as to whether he deliberately misled Parliament. Within weeks, the ruling could decide whether a Johnson return is possible or if he is destined to keep his comebacks for the biggest crowds. Now, the point is, as I said, we'll look at what the I newspaper says morally about what should happen to Johnson, but it doesn't say anything. And the reason is that despite the fact that it claims to be independent, the I newspaper is produced, owned, controlled by the Daily Mail, which is as corrupt can be, and a corrupt platform for the propaganda for this depraved criminal Boris Johnson. So there is nothing in that piece. And I read that in full in order to make the point that despite the headings and despite the kind of attractions to being important in terms of morality, ethics, and accountability, these newspapers are complete shams. Talking about shams, the Times today, the Times Part 2, has got 9 photographs of Tina Turner. And these photographs are accompanying the piece Baila into Bonnie Greer. The Bonnie Greer's thing is headlined or headed, "We couldn't be Twiggy, we could be Tina." Now this is the week that has witnessed an extraordinary kind of unity, if you like, on the front pages and the other news items about Tina Turner that has not been seen about any black personality that has passed away, as far as I can see. Of course, in 19 when Martin Luther King was murdered, I wasn't in the United Kingdom, so I wasn't directly able to access the newspapers and the papers' coverage. But by a long kind of distance measure, Tina Turner is being given almost as full a kind of promotion as they would give to a white woman of her achievement. But the Bonnie Greer piece is false, because Bonnie Greer is a small number of black Americans settled in the United Kingdom who actually appears on the mainstream spots on the BBC, Sky News, etc. And Bonnie Greer is not almost never criticized by the racists that she appears with. But Bonnie Greer's reason for being given that kind of reception is because she's married to a white man, just like the woman who is now the embattled chief executive of the supermarket chain, who is also married to a white man. It is not an accident because these white men give access to black persons like Bonnie Greer to levels and spheres of the racist establishment that the likes of Bonnie Greer would otherwise not receive or be able to access in her own right. That is number one. Number two is that Bonnie Greer herself is a mental slave, despite the fact that she makes all kinds of fabricated claims about being critical of the fully mentally enslaved morons. So her saying, we couldn't be Twiggy, we could be Tina. Bonnie Greer, what Tina Turner meant to black girls like me, fuck off. You're not a fucking black girl like the black girls. You are a liar. And you are not to be confused compared with the ordinary black girls in America that are coming under increasing resurgent racist attacks. And I'm just hinting at Bonnie Greer's kind of duplicity there, not going into the details. That is what I mean. Because this is just an updater, shortened version of the updater. I'm looking at the clock and I am looking at the prospect of my doing a particular appointment, which has to happen within the next 40 minutes. So I'm not going to continue for very much longer this edition for that reason. Except to say that yesterday, which was Thursday, I came across a gathering of mainly racist trade union members operated by a racist woman, supposedly addressing the issue of the Newham sixth form college plasto, that is the subject of an ongoing dispute between staff and the principal. Now, this collection of racists, now this happened on the what? Yesterday, the 25th of May, 2023. Now, this happened 2023, and it reminded me of a racist event that took place in 1977. And both occasions, I was absolutely wrongly, racistly denied equality of presence and participation. So I will be doing a separate essay length analysis and update accordingly on this one. So 1977, it was the racist criminal Francis fucking Beckett. Now, Francis Beckett is a son of a fascist. But when he confronted me in Yorkshire at the ADM of the National Union of Journalists, where he looked completely shocked that I was present. That took place in Ilkley in Yorkshire. This fucking fascist son, as if his eyes were popping out at the sight of me. Why the fuck? So that was a trade union, National Union of Journalists. And yesterday, I was reminded of that by an identical behavior on the part of a small group in charge of controlling the event that took place in Stratford Town Hall, where 16 people, I think, attended, apart from me, which would mean 17. If I have missed out, if I have got the one number wrong, I'll update it accordingly. But that is the number I remember. I counted. Now, this was possibly the most stupid behavior on the part of a trade unionist. And this woman could not express her importance. And the event took place for about an hour. And I don't believe that they really should have gone on even for an hour. Because whatever they said, and I could not understand a word they said. Why? Because they were almost whispering. That is the reason. These are the types of people that disgrace the word of trade unions, that actually fight for the rights of their members. So this is not something that is helping the otherwise mentioned campaign to stop the degeneration of the already messed up Newham Sixth Form College. So I shall be doing the update in due course after the necessary interval, in due course, whenever that is. So I'll be bringing this one to an end at 08:22 hours GMT on Friday, the 26th of May 2023.